Hi, I'm Kevin Frank. It is July 21st, 2020, here once again with Dr. Jeff Andresen for our weekly weather update and forecast. So, Jeff, feel free to share your wisdom with us.
We'll try. Lots to share. No, don't know how wise it'll be, but we'll see here. Wanted to start today with and it's a little piece of climatology, but it is for most spots, not all, but for most spots in the Great Lakes region in Michigan, it's the warmest week of the year. If we look at the daily averages, and what you see here is actually this is a graphic from last year in Lansing, but if you look at the background, the colors here reflect the normals during the time of the year, and you can see the clear annual cycle here. But this last week of July and the first couple of days of August is typically where it maxes out. So it's one way of looking at it. We've reached the peak of our annual cycle, and then we start to see a slow decline into the fall after that. But this is the week that typically occurs. During the last week, really more of the same, but a little bit more in the way of precipitation. Our mean temperatures for the week on the left here, generally about 2 to 4 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. Of course, that was helped a lot by some of the really hot weather we had late in the week and over the weekend. But again, just as or more importantly here, for many areas, especially in southern lower Michigan, we did get some meaningful precipitation. Most areas you can see at least an inch. There were some exceptions to that. The northern part of the state did very well. In many of these areas here, you can see more than 2, some cases as much as 3 or 4 inches fell during the last week across the northern lower, and then large areas of upper Michigan, a little bit less again as you go south. But for most areas, in some areas, it was the most significant rain we've had in a couple weeks. With warmer than normal weather, no surprises here. Our degree day totals seasonally back to the beginning of March continue to advance, and they're advancing more rapidly than normals. So for most areas of the state, especially across the north, we are running a full calendar week, some cases probably pushing almost 2 calendar weeks ahead now of normal. Again, given an unusually warm June and actually warmer than normal July. So far our growing season has been quite a bit on the positive side in terms of temperatures. In terms of moisture and the precipitation, I've got the headline here, the rainfall eases dryness, and it did in many areas, but we still have concerns longer term here. The U.S. Drought Monitor, the most recent version of this, which came out, reflects conditions last week before some of the rainfall fell. You can see that there was a fairly significant expansion of the abnormal dryness, or the D0 category, across Michigan. We went from about 18% of the state in that D0 category last week to 38%. So it was a pretty big jump, and you can see other areas in neighboring states here, Indiana and Ohio, Illinois, have also expanded. But again, the good news is some of the precip we've had since then has alleviated that. In terms of the evaporative demand drought index, or the EDDI index, we're still somewhere typically or mostly in the category 1 to category 2 of that index. So not quite as severe or significant as it was a couple weeks ago, but we're still somewhat dry. And again, I think some of that has to do with the warmer than normal temperatures and the sunnier than normal conditions, high PET rates, that type of thing we've had for much of the growing season thus far. Well, we're in another weather pattern, and in many ways, as I was putting this together, there was a lot of deja vu, a lot of similar features looking at here in the forecast that we had at the same time last week. Today, this afternoon, high pressure is centered here over Lake Huron, and that's for most of the state. That's led to at least a dry day. We had some clouds earlier across the state. Those are in the process of dissipating. But the frontal boundary that went through the state on Sunday, you can see it's stopped or stalled out here just to our south. That's going to return northward as a warm front here over the next several hours and tomorrow. And then finally, we'll see the passage of a cool front behind that. That comes later during the day tomorrow on Wednesday. So quite a bit happening. That's really our next best chance for precipitation. You can see down here in the lower left, this is the most recent 1-hour radar time lapse. Some of that precipitation with that warmer air, with the warm front, is actually as far now as the western upper peninsula. We'll see, though, in most areas, the rainfall develop here late this evening overnight and then continue into tomorrow before the frontal boundary makes it through. Probably in most spots, especially in lower Michigan, there'll be two major threats of rain. One, as the warm front moves northward. Let me move to tomorrow morning. That's tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. So we'll have one chance with the warm front and then a second chance with the cold front as it wraps around from the back several hours later. So again, if there's a period in between, you'll know why. It's just that we've got two major systems, or two major dynamic systems roaming, coming across the area. And then finally by Thursday morning, you can see the front passes to the south and is replaced by high pressure once again over the Great Lakes region. So after the chance and threat of rainfall here over the next 24 hours, we'll see then dry conditions develop on Thursday and Friday for most of the state with relatively seasonable temperatures. Thursday will be a little bit, actually a couple degrees cooler than normal actually on Thursday, but by Friday, we should see temperatures back up to or even above normal levels. And then moving into the weekend, just like we saw last weekend, we will get a piece of the hot and humid air mass that's down here across central and southern portions of the U.S. That'll make a return visit, just like it did last weekend. That'll be most noticeable, again, the beginning of that by Saturday, and then probably continuing Sunday and Monday into next week before another change. So a lot of similarities to what we saw last week. There will be a chance also during the weekend on almost on a daily basis of scattered showers and thunderstorms. Not looking for anything widespread. And that, I would also say that's the case here for tonight in terms of how widespread is the rainfall we're looking at here later today and tomorrow. It will be scattered. Most spots probably pick up a quarter of an inch or so. We probably will find some areas though that are missed by precipitation. We could have an isolated 1/2 to 1 inch total, but it's not a large rainfall producer in terms of aerial coverage. And the same thing will be the case on the weekend. So nothing really widespread, but certainly a continuing threat. One last thing on the rainfall this weekend, they'll be greatest across northern parts of the state and decrease as you go towards the south. In terms of totals here for the next week, the model guidance is suggesting just like last week, a large gradient from south to north with less than a quarter of an inch in some portions of the southern lower peninsula, all the way up to more than an inch or 1.5 inches even across the northern part of the state. And again, that's the combination of what we're going to see over the next 24 hours and then this weekend. And as I just said, the chances here over this weekend will be significantly higher for rain and for aerial coverage in the north versus the southern part of the state. So it depends really on where you are, whether it'll be a wetter or drier than normal week. Our potential evapotranspiration forecast or outlook a little bit lower than it has been. Not too far away from normal. Most areas here, weekly totals are from 1.2 to 1.3 inches. So dealing with about 1,500ths to 1,800ths or so average per day through the next week. So again, not too far away from what climate tells us, but less than it was here earlier, a couple, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. Medium range forecast guidance, and this is also, again, a more deja vu from last week, but the upper air pattern that we've seen here is still with us, and you can see this broad ridging feature just continuing to persist. One of the keys for us is, one key is that with this ridge, our warmer than normal temperatures are very, very likely to continue, and you can see that's reflected here in this the 6 to 10 day outlook. It's 8 to 14 day outlook is almost identical to this, the 26th through the 30th. Very high probability of above normal, warmer than normal mean temperatures here for the last few days of July. That's a really, really strong bet. The harder part is the precipitation, and it really all depends on where the axis of this ridge sets up. And what we've seen many times is it's been further west out here over the northern plains, and with that we get a little bit of a northwesterly flow here across the Great Lakes. And that's important because it moves Michigan a little bit closer to the main storm track, which typically is north of us at this time of the year. And it gives us relatively, well, at least normal, if not above normal, chances for rainfall. And that's reflected here in the precipitation forecast or outlook here for the both, again, 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day. And officially we would call this normal to above normal precipitation totals. So there still will be, most of that is because we'll have, well, a relatively high frequency or a lot of chances for rainfall during that time frame. And that's really the feel that we've gotten, or I guess the theme that we've gotten for a lot of this medium range forecast guidance. Also, a new set of long lead outlooks were issued last Thursday by the Climate Prediction Center. They're also similar to really the last couple of issuances, both for the month of August and then for the 3-month August through October period. Both of them are still calling for warmer than normal mean temperatures. That shouldn't be a surprise given some of what we talked about, and actually an expectation of a continuation of that upper air pattern at least into August. Precipitation is somewhat sketchy, the EC or equal chances category, but you can see not too far from us, there are areas of above normal precipitation favored to our west and to our south. So again, officially we would call it no direction or equal chances of below, near, and above normal. But not to be surprised if we saw more of that 6 to 10 day type normal to above normal totals. So right now it's looking like the weather we've had is we're stuck with for a while. A couple of other things here as we sort of move into this latter part of the summer and think even about the fall. But at the end, well, one of the things we know is that if we have degree day surpluses by the end of July or a little bit past halfway through the season, statistically, it's very, very highly likely that we'll have those at the end of the year. Same goes with deficits if we have a cool spring or cool early part. And so one thing we can say with some confidence right now is that we're going to end with probably a surplus of degree days. And well, it's not as important for some of the, for turf, but for some of our annual crops, which have a finite growing season length and so forth, there shouldn't be any shortage of heat or warmth to move things through physiological maturity this year because of this. That would be one implication of this outlook. And one last thing, and I'll share this maybe in next week, but there are increasing chances or likelihood of La Nina or a cool event in the Pacific coming up here for the fall and possibly the winter. It's something I'll look at next time. But essentially, when we have La Nina winters in Michigan and the Great Lakes, we typically see above normal precipitation during the winter, usually above normal snowfall too. Temperatures can go either, they're usually somewhere in the middle, but a lot of times we have maybe cooler than normal temperatures in that as well. So it's a more winter-like type of forecast, at least at this point in time. And right now, it's given a little bit over 50-50 odds that La Nina conditions develop here a little bit later. So I'll talk more about that next week. That's a ways out. So summarizing here again, more of the same, very summer-like pattern. Showers and thunderstorms later today into tomorrow, dry Thursday, Friday, and then hot and humid again over the weekend with an almost daily chance for more scattered convection activity, especially north. And we will see temperatures back up once again above 90 in areas of the state, certainly in the south and central parts here by upcoming weekend and into early next week. So we haven't seen the last of the heat and humidity. It'll be back with us. And I would not probably be going very far out on the limb to say that won't be the last time we see that either. We're just, again, finishing up or getting close to finishing up with July with the outlook and still have the whole month of August. And as you just saw then too, more expected with the medium range and the long lead, more warmer than normal temperatures forecast there as well. So I'll wrap up there, Kevin, and see if there might be any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Right at the beginning there, did I catch this correctly? You said that this is typically or historically the warmest week of summer?
Yeah, that's looking at, so these are daily means. Actually, unfortunately, you can't, the green area here is our normal mean temperatures for the given date. The sort of pink salmon color here, those are the record highs. The blues are the record lows. And so if you look at that again, overall, the shape of this curve, this is when we see the peak on an annual basis. If you're wondering, well, when does the coldest occur? It's usually here the last few days of January into the first couple of days of February. So we're pushed back about 5 weeks from the solstice.
Mm-hmm.
On both sides, our longest day and our shortest days is when we see the peak or the warmest air temperatures and coldest respectively. But I don't know, some people don't like to look at it that way. We were already seeing shorter days now, of course, because we've gone past the solstice, but the air temperature lags behind it by a few weeks, 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, I think you have a little bit of everything for everybody this week. Then if you like the hot weather, you're going to have it this weekend. And if you want to look forward to winter, it sounds like maybe you're going to be in for a treat.
At least to start to think about it anyway.
Okay, I think that'll do, Jeff. Thanks a lot for your time again, and
You bet.
we'll see you next week, okay?
See you next week. Thanks.